If you've gotten to know a few of the musicians in your local music scene, or maybe someone in your family is trying to make it as a musician, perhaps even a friend of yours moved out to a bigger city and is going for that life in the music biz. If any of these people are a part of your life in any way, you've more than likely noticed that they aren't exactly rolling in the money. Maybe some of them have done okay, but from what I've seen over the years that I've been doing this, very few actually do very well for themselves. Now, this is a fairly common trend. In fact, a lot of times, once most musicians dedicate their lives to making music, they seem to also make out I guess you could call it a pledge to themselves, that even if they don't make much money in the music business, at least they'll be happy doing something they love, right? But probably it's not really the fact of the matter. And a lot of times what happens is a lack of money as you get older will cause most adults to have a lot of stress. And even that stress can lead to health problems as well, even problems in a breakdown in your interpersonal relationships. So in this episode of the Guitar Blog Insider, we're going to run through some things that are very likely at the root of the cause for why so many musicians tend to always be so broke. Well, let's start right at the very beginning, way down there in the early days when you're just young and you're starting out and you're heavy into music and everything's about fun and good times. Sometimes when people are young and they still live at home with their parents paying all the bills, life's responsibilities are pretty thin. Young musicians who live at home often take gigs that sometimes don't pay any money. Maybe it's playing at a local fundraiser for a case of beer or something like that. A lot of times rehearsals are long and they take up entire evenings, and band projects are really time consuming at those early days. And mostly all of this is built on the basis of just having fun, hanging out with your buddies, and all is well. It's all about good times, because after all, what does it matter when you're young? What do you have to worry about? You don't have a water bill, there's no electric bill, there's no mortgage, no rent. All the food is in the fridge, and there's little to nothing in taxes because mom and dad pay for everything that keeps the roof overhead. Life's pretty easy, it's pretty good, but as the years go on, and if you do pursue music heavily as a career, there does come a time where you can get kind of old and you're going to want to move out and gain some independence from the home nest, and reality tends to rear its head, and wow, can it be an eye-opener. Okay, so we moved past that young age class and we're moving up into our later years, later 20s, early 30s. We're becoming more serious musicians. We're trying to make a life out of this, and we're trying to make a financial go-ahead with this. Now, in art and in music and in life, planning is everything. And any musician who's ever struggled through some really bad times knows that all it takes is one stupid decision, one stupid financial mistake to really screw up a month financially, sometimes even more than a month. So you always have to have some kind of a plan that you're going by. And this means for your tours you're doing, local gigs, for equipment you have, for what you're going to do with paying for things as the months go on, how you're going to establish some debt so you can get ahead, how you're going to move through the debt, pay it off, how your gigs are getting booked. All this stuff needs some kind of plan, and if you don't have it, you're going to be in big trouble. Now, the jobs are going to be sorted out for you financially, so there is something that's going on with your plan all the time in terms of financially where you're at, how much money is coming in this week, middle of the month, end of the month, and that kind of planning makes sure that there isn't more month at the end of the money. And you got to remember that you're going to have all the standard bills all the time. That means rent, car payment, cell phone, internet, food expenses, plus there's always going to be emergencies that you're going to run into. Just when you think you're getting ahead, your PA system dies and you need another power amp or another powered monitor or another whatever. Maybe your guitar gets stolen or something, you need a new guitar. So you have to have a plan in place, and the contingencies have to be there so you can always continue smoothly, because if you don't, then you're going to have a lot of stress, and as you probably well know, having a lot of stress is not good for playing music. It's not good in the recording studio, it's not good on stage, and you know what? It isn't healthy for you either. All right, so now you understand how important it is to have plans and to be planning all the time, understanding what's going on. You have to start realizing as well that your time is absolutely golden. It's so important. Every day you track it and you understand what you're going to be doing through your day. You've probably heard the saying, time is money, and it means that your time is super important. Now, unfortunately, it takes a lesson or two to realize that this is an often overlooked phrase by musicians, and I was guilty of abusing it too. When I was quite young as a musician, I used to put a lot of my effort into things and not get a lot of financial gain back. You know, when I was quite young, I did have the opportunity to work with one of my first professional projects going on as a musician. And I met a very successful pianist on that gig who explained his payment demands for working on all of his projects, and it really hit me that this was a serious business and that playing an instrument at a professional level is a job that needed to have its time and hours accounted for if I was ever going to make this a proper and successful career for myself. Now, see, what I noticed over the last 25 years is that there are those who do well in the business financially, and there are those who do not. And you know, sometimes those who fail actually have incredible talent, but you know, what I've seen is that talent is often exploited, and it's exploited by the musicians who sometimes don't even understand how much talent that they have, and they're getting taken advantage of for just how talented they are. And when all this happens, generally there's a lot of times no money changing hands, and that means that there's nothing to pay your bills with either. Now that you understand that having a plan is important and that time is money, it's time to start thinking about your pricing and how you're going to go about that aspect. Now, it's important to realize that your price you set for yourself in this business is everything, and you don't want to go too high, you don't want to go too low, but you want to find that middle ground where everything's really working well and you're always busy. And just like a lot of other independent methods of employment, some of the rate setting is fixed and some of it can be more flexible. And some of the jobs that you do, you may want to do at a little lower rate because you really like the group of people, they're great musicians, and you always have a fantastic time. And it kind of makes up for the fact that the price is a little bit under what you would normally charge. All these things are variables, but this is an area that those musicians who are perpetually broke musicians never seem to fully comprehend. It's not even something that they apply. So we need to come to terms with how much money we can make for different gigs. Now, one musician I met back in the 1990s, he worked for a record company, and he would go on tour with different pop singers, and usually touring Europe. He had a rate that he wanted for certain hours that he did and certain tours that he did. And you know, the record company back then was really good about meeting that for him. Now, a band leader who's a friend of mine has a rate for his band when they play clubs and another one for private functions, and that works really well for him. And it also works out that sometimes the fees that he's going to charge are going to be set in stone year after year for different corporate events and different steady work that he has annually. He likes the work and he respects the work and he likes that they call him back annually, so he keeps his fees flat for those kinds of gigs. Now, once you can start looking through your schedule and understanding your rates and deciding what kind of money you want for playing different shows, you're going to do far better financially than all the musicians who do not do this. Well, after you've learned to price yourself accordingly and you have some cash coming in, the next step is to really work hard at understanding how the cash is going out. Now, there's an old saying. It goes, if your outflows exceed your inflows, your upkeep will be your downfall. It makes sense in that if you can consume less than you take in and you do your best to save some of the difference, your career will always remain financially balanced. The trouble is far too many musicians bury themselves in debt by either wasting too much time and too much money on projects that don't pay well or don't have a large financial backlash to them later, and too much of their time time is spent on them and far too much money goes into them. That can be things like going way too elaborate on recordings, hiring too many people, producers, all kinds of folks involved that you have to pay, and it just adds up so fast. Or maybe doing really expensive, really elaborate photo shoots and hiring these professional photographers that cost a fortune. Maybe it's designing an absolutely spectacular website that you're not going to need at the time you're starting out because nobody's going to be visiting it anyway. It's all stuff that costs too much money and it's completely unnecessary. I know musicians who've been very successful. They've been musicians for 30 years or more, and some of them don't even have a website. Some of them have a pathetic website that was made in, the year 1999, and they've never even bothered to update it, but they're busy as all heck. They got lots of connections. Everybody enjoys working with them, and they're really successful. So build on who you are and gradually have other areas of your career and promotion follow you. Slowly, it's going to happen. It'll improve as the years go on, and it'll improve actually as you improve as a student of music and a student of music business. I personally worked with newcomers to the music business scene who've spent upwards of even $50,000 right out of the gate, right out of the start of their careers. And for most of those people, in fact, I can think of one of them who's ever seen any kind of success long-term. And when I say long-term, again, I'm saying a couple of decades, 20 years, maybe 25, 30 years. I just have never really seen it happen. What the deal is it all ended up being way too much money, output way too fast in a rush to make themselves appear as a professional too soon. And it just never really works. So take this to heart because it's very, very important. That outflow of money that you have, sometimes it will never come back to you in many years because you just laid out too much cash way too soon. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts and put them in the comment section. I'd like to see that. And I want to say thanks for your time. Thanks for supporting the new Guitar Blog Insider videos. They're going really well. I'm getting a lot of great feedback on them. I really appreciate it. And I will catch up with you next week again on my other channel for another episode of Guitar Blog Insider. Hello, I'm Andrew Wasson, the founder of Creative Guitar Studio. Creative Guitar is a professional guitar school that I established 25 years ago after I graduated from Hollywood, California's Musicians Institute. After building a successful local school, I decided to branch out to having online courses as well. So back in 2008, I decided to take Creative Guitar onto the internet and offer my guitar methods through both YouTube and on my website. Since then, I've had over 150,000 guitar players from over 100 countries take part in my online courses. And the courses have only become better with the material having grown so much since then. Creative Guitar has become one of the best ways available for guitar players to reach their playing goals. So click on the Join Now button below and sign up for your free membership. That free membership will allow you to view all the free members area videos, download certain handouts, watch samples of each course, and also purchase individual products. From there, you can take things a step further by signing up for a basic or premium membership package for as little as $14.95 a month. So click on the Join Now button and start taking advantage of everything the website has to offer.